Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel where I tell fairy tales mainly, and this one we're still in the era of 1916. This is a Welsh fairy tale and I will try and pronounce the best I can, but please understand it will be hard for me. So it's called Llud and Levelys. Levelys, I think. Beli the Great, the son of Managon, had 3 sons, Llud and Cywalam and Ninya, and according to the story, he had a 4th son called Levelys. And after the death of Beli, the kingdom of the island of Britain fell into the hands of Llud, his eldest son, and Llud ruled prosperously and rebuilt the walls of London and encompassed it about with numberless towers. And after that, he bade the citizens build houses therein, much as no houses in the kingdoms could equal. And moreover, he was a mighty warrior, and generous and liberal in giving meat and drink to all who sought them. And though he had many castles and cities, this one loved he more than any, and he dwelt therein most part of the year. And therefrom it was called Llud, and at last London, and after the strange race came, it was called London, or Lundris. Llud loved Levelys best of all his brothers, because he was a wise and discreet man, having heard that the king of France had died, leaving no heir except a daughter, and that he had left all his possessions in her hands. He came to Llud his brother to beseech his counsel and his aid, and that not so much for his own welfare as to seek to add to the glory and honour and dignity of his kingdom, if he might go to France to woo the maiden for his wife. And forthwith his brother considered with him, and sat and considered at this counsel, and he was pleasing, very pleasing unto him. After they had discussed, he prepared his ships and filled them with armed knights, and set forth towards France. And as soon as they had landed, they sent messengers to show the nobles of France the cause of the embassy. And by the joint council of the nobles of France and of princes, the maiden was given to Levelys, and the crown of the kingdom with her. And thenceforth he ruled the land discreetly and wisely and happily, as long as his life lasted. After a space of time had passed, 3 plagues fell on the island of Britain, such as none in the islands had ever seen the like of. The first was a certain race that came, and was called the Coronians, and so great was their knowledge that there was no discourse upon the face of the island, however low it might be spoken. But what if the wind met it? It was known to them, and through this they could not be injured. And their coin was fairy money, the money of the little people, that is, money which, when received, appears to be good coin, but which, if kept, turns into pieces of fungus or stones, other rubbish. The second plague was a shrek, which came on every May Eve, or every hearth in the island of Britain, and this went through people's hearths and hearts, and so scared them that the men lost their hue and their strength, and the women their children, and the young men and the maiden lost their senses, and all the animals and trees, and the earth and the waters were left barren. The third plague was that, however much of provision and food might be prepared in the king's courts, where there even so much as provision of meat and drink, none of it could ever be found, except what was consumed the first sight and first night. And two of these plagues no one ever knew their cause. Therefore was there better hope of being freed from the first than from the second and the third. And thereupon King Llud felt great sorrow and care, because that he knew not how he might be completely freed from all of the plagues. And he called to him all the nobles of the kingdom, and asked counsel of them what they should do against these afflictions. And by the common counsel of the nobles, Llud the son of Veli went to Levelys his brother, king of France, for he was a great man of counsel and wisdom, to seek his advice. And they made ready a fleet, and that in secret and in silence, lest that race should know the cause of their errand, or any besides the king and his counsellors. And when they were made ready, they went into their ships, Llud and those whom he chose to go with him, and they began to cleave the seas towards France. And when these tidings came to Levelys, seeing that he knew not the cause of his brother's ships, he came on the other side to meet him, and with him was a fleet vast of size. And when Llud saw this, he left all the ships out upon the sea, except only one. And in that one he came to meet his brother, and he likewise with a single ship came to meet him. And when they were come together, each put his arms around the other's neck, and they welcomed each other with brotherly love. After that, Llud had shown his brother the cause of the errand. Levelys said that he himself knew the cause of coming to those lands, and they took counsel together to discourse on the matter, otherwise than thus, in order that the wind might not catch their words, nor the Coranians know what they might say. The Levelys caused a long horn to be made of brass, and through this horn they discoursed. But whatsoever words they spoke through this horn, one to the other, neither of them could hear any other but harsh and hostile words. And when Levelys saw this, and that there was a demon thwarting them and disturbing through this horn, he caused wine to be put therein to wash it, and through the virtue of wine the demon was driven out of the horn. And when their discourse was unobstructed, Levelys told his brother that he might give him some insects, whereof he should keep some to breed, lest by chance the like affliction might come a second time. And of these insects he should take and bruise in water, and he assured him that it would have power to destroy the race of Coranians. That is to say, that when he came home to his kingdom, he should call together all the people, every single people, both his own race and the race of the Coranians, for a conference, as though with the intent of making peace between them, and that when they were all together, he should take this charmed water, cast it over all alike, and he assured him that the water would poison the race of Coranians, but it would not slay or harm none of those of his own race. And the second plague, he said, that is my dominion. Behold, it is a dragon, and another dragon of a foreign race is fighting with it and striving to overcome it. And therefore does your dragon make a fearful outcry. And on this wise mayest thou come to know this, after thou hast returned home. Cause the land to be measured in its length and breadth, and in place where thou dost find the exact central point, there cause a pit to be dug, and cause a cauldron full of the best mead, and that can be put in the pit, with a covering of satin over the face of the cauldron. And then, in thine own person, do thou remain there watching, and thou wilt see the dragon fighting in form of terrific animals. And at length they will take the form of dragons in the air, and last of all, after wearying themselves with fierce and furious fighting, they will fall in the form of two pigs upon the covering, and they will sink in, and the covering with them, and they will draw it down to the very bottom of the cauldron, and they will drink up the whole of the mead, and after that they will sleep. Thereupon do thou immediately fold the covering around them, and bury them in a crispian, and make sure of it, that it is strongest in this place thou hast in thy dominions, and hide them in the earth. And as long as they shall bide in that strong place, no plague shall come to the island of Britain from elsewhere. The cause of the third plague, he said, is a mighty man of magic, who taken thy meat and thy drink and thy store, and he through illusions and charms causes everyone to sleep. Therefore it is needed for thee in thy own person to watch thy food and thy provisions, lest he should overcome thee with sleep. Be there a cauldron of cold water by thy side, and when thou art oppressed with sleep, plunge into the cauldron. Then Llud returned back unto his land, and immediately he summoned to him the whole of his own race and the Coranians. And, as instructed by his brother the way he taught him, he bruised the insects in water, the which he cast over them all together, and forthwith it destroyed the whole tribe of Coranians, without hurt to any of the Britons. And some time after this, Llud caused the island to be measured, lengthen its breadth, and in Oxford he found the central point, and in that place he caused the earth to be dug, and in that pit a cauldron to be set, full of the best mead that could be made, and a covering of satin over the face of it. And he himself watched that night. While he was there, he beheld the dragons fighting, and when they came weary they fell, and came down upon the top of the satin, and drew it in with them to the bottom of the cauldron. When they drunk all the mead, they slept, and in their sleep Llud folded the covering round them, and in the securest place he had in Snowdon, he hid them in the Crispian. Now, after that, this spot was called Llud and Levelys, but before that, Llud and and thus the fierce outcry ceased in his dominions. And when this was ended, King Llud caused an exceedingly great banquet to be prepared, and when it was ready, he placed a vessel of cold water by his side, and he, in his own proper persons, of course, would watch over it. And as he abode thus, clad with arms, about the third watch of the night, lo, he heard many surpassing fascinations and various songs, and drowsiness urged him to sleep. Upon this, lest he should be hindered from his purposes, and to be overcome by sleep, he went often into the water, and at last, behold, a man of vast size, clad in strong, heavy armour, came in, bearing a large hamper. And, as he wont, he put all the food and provisions of meat and drink in the hamper, and proceeded to go with it forth. And nothing was ever more wonderful to Llud than that the hamper should hold so much. And thereupon King Llud went after him, and spoke unto him thus. Stop, stop, said he, though thou hast done many insults and much spoils erewhile, thou shalt not do so any more, unless thy skill in arms and thy prowess be greater than mine. And then the giant instantly put down the hamper on the floor, and awaited the king. And a fierce encounter was between them, so that the glittering fire flew out from their arms. And, At the last, Llud grappled with him, and fate bestowed the victory on Llud. And he threw the plague to the earth, and after he had overcome him by strength and might, he besought his mercy. "How can I grant thee mercy," said the king, "after all the many injuries and wrongs that thou hast done to me? All the losses that ever I have caused thee," said he, "I will make thee atonement for, equal to what I have taken, and I will never do the like from this time forth, but thy faithful vassal will I be." And the king accepted this from him, and thus Llud freed the island of Britain from the 3 plagues. And from thenceforth until the end of his life, in prosperous peace did Llud, the son of Beli, rule the island of Britain. And this tale is called The Story of Llud and Levelys. And thus it does end. So that's the story. And, it's interesting that they put all the 3 plagues together, because usually in Welsh tales we just hear about the dragon. We don't hear about the rest. So I like that. Obviously the dragon story is told in my dragon section anyway. But yeah, that's a Welsh fairy tale. Thank you for listening. Please hit that like and share, and many blessings.